A lot of people are ready to pick on millennials and their lack of historical understanding. I think we should be picking on the instructors of millennials, but many young people today have no idea of the uniqueness of the American experiment, and that a Republican constitutional form of government just didn't pop up like a dandelion in the springtime. It had roots, historical roots. The founders made their choice of government based on their understanding of the purest form of government. Yes?
You are so right, Frank, that America's founders did something unique in world history. When you look at history, when the Sumerians invented writing about 3300 BC, the records show that the most common form of government is a king. Well, when America's founders got the chance to break away, they flipped it and made the people the king. And so a republic is the people are king ruling through representatives. We pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic. We're basically pledging allegiance to us being in charge of ourselves. And the idea is, where did the founders in America come up with this idea? Well, when the Pilgrims were coming across, they were going to land in Jamestown, and they get blown 500 miles off course. And they're landing in Massachusetts. It's stormy in winter, and the captain of the boat says, "You're going to have to get off the boat here." And they said, "We have a problem. There's no king-appointed person on our boat to take charge. We just can't be a lawless mob." They do something unique. They give themselves the authority to start a government called the Mayflower Compact. And this Pilgrim experiment, they were part of a congregational church, right? So they fled from England to Holland, and their pastor, John Robinson, was one of the founders of the congregational church, where it wasn't an Anglican bishop that appointed them, it was the people. That inspired the New England colonies, where you had pastors starting communities. And so Roger Williams started Providence, Rhode Island, and Thomas Hooker founded Hartford, Connecticut. Pastors and churches founding communities. You read their sermons, where did they get their ideas? Believe it or not, ancient Israel. This is what the founders in New England referenced, this first 400-year period of ancient Israel. And even up to the time of the Constitution, it needed to be ratified by 9 states. They had 8. New Hampshire was in line to be the 9th, but it was in a deadlock. And so Harvard President Samuel Langdon gives them an address, the Republic of the Israelites, an example to the American states. After his sermon, they vote, they ratify it. They're the 9th state. The U.S. Constitution goes into effect. After the sermon, the Republic of the Israelites, an example to the American states. So there's a clear line that America's founders got the idea of the people ruling themselves from the bottom up from ancient Israel.
And Israel eventually turned away from God and demanded a king. And the context of all this that you're saying helps us understand what a great insult that was to God, for Israel to demand a king when he himself was their king. He himself was the one that they needed to look to for all things. In America, we've done that in a different kind of way. Government's become so big and so powerful and so intrusive, we sort of look to government to provide a great many things to us that any Christian who reads his Bible carefully ought to be saying, I'm looking to God as my provider. But with expansive government that slipped the bounds of the Constitution in many respects, we now have a government that people see as their provider, yes?
Well, you are so right in bringing up ancient Israel and how it changed. What happened? The priests stopped teaching the law. High priest Eli, his own sons, are sleeping with women in the very tent of meeting with the Lord. He's no longer teaching the people the law. Every man did what was right in their own eyes. Why? Because the priests had stopped teaching them what was right in the Lord's eyes. And when there's no God, then you just follow your selfish human nature. There's going to be chaos. And then in that chaos, people want someone to come along and fix it. And that's when somebody comes along promising to fix it, they surrender their rights and freedoms, and you're back to a king. And in Israel's case, they go to Samuel and they say, we want to be like all the other countries. We want a king. Samuel cries, and the Lord tells him, they did not reject you, they rejected me, that I should not reign over them. So they get King Saul, who turns around and kills most of the priests, right? And so we see America's form of government is based on the people having internal moral self-control. They're motivated to follow that because of the God of the Bible. Now, it only works with the God of the Bible. An Islamic Allah God says there's an infidel woman there, nobody's around, you can rape her, it's okay. The God of the Bible says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So our form of government without a king is based on the people having internal morals. What motivates them to follow them is this God of the Bible who's watching them and wants them to be fair and is going to hold them accountable. You get rid of this God, all you have is rules. Why follow them? Some will, some won't. Those that won't are going to start robbing and stealing and smashing windows and having mobs in the street and total lawlessness and chaos. Everybody's going to say, we need someone to come along and restore order. Someone comes in, collects everybody's guns, and yeah, they'll restore order, but when the dust settles, you'll have fundamentally transformed your country from the people ruling themselves from the bottom up back to a king ruling from the top down.